not have that technology. I'm going to read you a quick half-page story that I don't think you guys read. Did you guys read the Lysenko affair?
Yeah.
You did read it?
What was it about?
No. Okay.
I don't remember.
I'm going to read it.
I read it.
The Lysenko affair, which lasted roughly from the mid-1930s to the mid-1960s, was the big scandal of the 20th century science. A classic example of how politics can corrupt and undermine science. Under Stalin's leadership, the Soviet government, which Russia is the Soviet government, suppressed genuine genetics and other sound biology with devastating consequences for agriculture and health. The worst offense occurred in August 1948 when the government outlawed teaching and research based on Mendel's genetics, now currently accepted ideas. Lysenko's ideas, so this is a guy named Lysenko, did not fit with other scientists' observations and ideas. However, the government backed Lysenko for political reasons. Lysenko was not connected to the academic world and was viewed as a peasant genius. Because of Lysenko's social status, he was accepted by the lower class of people who were resisting the government's changes. Lysenko's ideas motivated the farmers to begin farming again instead of resisting the control of the government. Unfortunately, Lysenko's investigations could not be repeated by other scientists, and today most of his work is seen as being false. Lysenko promised great improvements in farming based on his faulty research, which the government supported, going so far to outlaw anything that conflicted with Lysenko's ideas. So basically, people, look up here. What's going on is that Russia, the government, the people, like the political bodies, like our president, Congress, stuff like that, they're saying, okay, nobody can use Mendel's ideas, which Mendel is what you guys learned about last year. The genetics of Punnett squares, stuff like that. You guys remember that stuff? Okay. So that's the stuff that people accept today. Like that's the stuff, like all the corn we grow in this state is based on Mendel genetics. Russia in the 1930s was saying, well, wait a minute, Mendel's genetics, we don't like those ideas. We like the ideas of Lysenko. So the government actually outlawed Mendel's ideas. And what ended up happening is that there was widespread famine, which, what does famine mean?
Loss of
Starvation, no food. And so, so a lot of people actually probably died because of this, and it's because the government said you have, scientists, you have to use Lysenko's ideas. So that's an example of the government, which is part of our culture, affecting science.
Wow.
Let's go on to, I'm going to skip over this one. Let's go on to no scientific method. Why do we say there's no scientific method?
Because, like, we don't know how Earth was built, so you can't say God did it because, like, you can't talk to that.
You're talking about something a little bit different. Yeah, you're talking about no supernatural, so I'm going to put that
Oh,
up
yeah,
there,
huh.
and we'll come back to it. Let's go on with no scientific method. Why do we say there's no scientific method? People, I need to hear from more of you.
Because there's no right steps to do science, you can do them in different steps.
Okay, you want?
Because people have different ideas and react to new ideas differently.
Joe?
like in the book, no, there was a map that was also this main idea. Then they had different steps. We went in different directions. Like from the bottom, it went to like the top. Then from the top, it went to the side, and all in different directions.
Okay. If you had to convince somebody else that there's no such thing as a scientific method, what examples would you give them? Yes, you can. I'll let you try to be harder. What examples would you give somebody, and I'll come back to you, Romero, first. What examples would you give somebody to convince them that there's no scientific method? I'll give you a minute.
I got it.
Answers, or are you just joking?
No, we don't.
Yeah, she looks like she's joking.
No, that's just like,
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody, back up here, please. Romero, what example would you give?
two scientists had the same stuff and used it in different ways.
What two scientists?
Aristotle and
Other guy.
Wait, what?
You know the paper that
Talking about
Well, yeah, I gave you lots of papers. You haven't been here the whole year, but they've had lots of papers.
Can it be any type of example?
Sure.
Okay, like when you're showering, some people scrub
About
their
the
ears first,
people
some people
Indians
scrub the
that-
edge.
Well, but that doesn't really apply to science necessarily. It's a nice example, but it would be nice if we had something to. Now, remember what you said was the last story we read
Yeah.
about the animals? Because that was the last. Oh no, the last story we read was about the continents,
Yeah.
the continental drift thing.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about Wagner and Seuss.
Yes.
Yes.
They had different ideas, but why would you say they had different methods?
I don't know.
It's different
You're studying
ideas.
it deeper.
Because they have like different ideas, then of course they're not gonna research the same thing because they're thinking about different things.
Okay.
Like they're actually researching the same question. Like they were looking for why there's the same fossil in two different continents, and they study it differently. One thought it was a bridge, and the other one thought that they were all together.
Okay.
That's different.
They were trying to explain the fossils, and one guy thought it was land bridges, and another guy thought they were all together. The continents.
I think that they had different imaginations and they attributed most of the stuff because, like, say, like, we were looking at the clouds and we kind of said it was like a fish, and then I said it was an answer, and then they agreed because they were thinking different things. But looking,
Okay.
Like, you would give them like two different experiments to do, and like, you'll tell them to do them different ways, but like, it'll come up with the same answer, so like, their methods are different, but the same answer.
Okay. Well, but in that story, they didn't have the same answer.
No, I'm not talking about.
Okay, you're not talking about that story. You're talking in general. All right. What's another example that we could give to convince somebody there's no scientific method?
like, at the beginning of spring, when we're looking at the tubes, like, each person, like, started coming up with different ideas on how they thought the tubes work.
Okay. What's another example from real science that we could give? Think about all the different stories we've talked about, or real scientists we've talked about. What's another example?